Welcome to the Informator.net.
Welcome, everybody. This is AP. You're listening to The Uncomfortable Truth with AP and Chatty. So, guys, man, I went on a little bit of a mini vacation there. And while I was gone, I did start looking at some stories before I came back the other day. And there's a lot going on right now. And it got me thinking. But before I tell you what I was thinking, let me tell you what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the bombing that happened in Kiev, Ukraine, with Russia. We're going to talk about what's going on with the Catholic Church, right? They seem like they're kind of losing it. I don't know if any of you guys heard about what's going on there. And then today I already saw that Israel bombed inside of Qatar. So there's a lot of news going on right now, a lot of things that we need to look at through that biblical lens I tell you about. But before I get into that, I won't ramble too long this time, but before I get into that, when I was coming home on the plane, I was just thinking about something because I was a little bit troubled, and I have some theories that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on, but I was a little bit troubled because I was thinking of these theories that I have, and these theories all have to do with end times. And the reason why I say that is just, like I said, you look at the news, you see a lot going on, and the way I see it, things ain't getting better. But I started thinking about my show here because I hadn't worked on it, haven't done really anything on social media or anything. And I was thinking about what I was going to talk to you guys about today. And I wanted to know what am I doing here, right? I've asked that question before when you watch my videos. And what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit scary. And I know that there's plenty of shows that you can watch that'll teach you about survival, right? Like if something were to happen, some type of maybe huge natural disaster or something that just knocks the U.S. down, like maybe power goes out or whatever, like how you could survive, right, in this post-apocalyptic type world. So I know there's plenty of those type of channels. I also know there's channels that'll teach you about, like, maybe weapons, or they'll tell you about weapons, gathering weapons, show you how to use weapons, and all those kind of things. So I'm like, when you're talking about the end times, you're talking about, well, what should people do, right? A lot of these shows will be that's why they give you advice, like what should you do? On my show, it's none of that because I can't do any of those things. It's kind of like you're gonna have to do whatever your heart, leads you to do. If we were to ever reach that point in our time. So, but for my show, I don't do any of that because, like I said, that's something that you got to figure out. My show has one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to strengthen your spirit and your soul. Because to me, that's the most important. I mean, yeah, you could go out in a blaze of glory and if that's what you want to do, right? But I also believe what Jesus said. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. So you go do whatever you got to do. All I'm trying to say is I care most about preparing you and your families with your spirit and your soul, because at the end of the day, it's just the way it's going to go. Most likely, a lot of us, if the world got into that point, like biblically, most of us are going to get captured and put into camps anyways. Like I said, you can go out in a blaze of glory if that's what you want. But me, I just know that no matter what you're doing, whether you're trying to survive, right, or you're going to some type of war or whatever, all that matters is your soul, because ain't none of us living forever. That's just the bottom line. And so that's what my show's about. Because, like I said, I'm not going to teach violence. I'm not going to teach survival techniques and stuff. That's for you to go out and you go figure out. All I know is this, is you got to keep that soul and you got to keep your spirit strong. Because if anything, if things ever hit the fan that way, temptation is going to be your biggest enemy. You know what I mean? Like, what are you willing to do to survive? Like, I know I don't want to do anything that's sinful. I just don't. And I think a lot of people will be doing things that are sinful. And so that comes down to you. What are you going to do, right? So, like I said, we'll get into my theory and what's been troubling me later. But today's show, I already told you what we're going to talk about. So we're going to roll the first tape, okay? Bear with me.
Russia launching its largest air attack on Ukraine ever, with deadly results. And for the first time in the war, a Russian strike hit a government building in Kiev.
Let's get right to Trey Yingst, live in Ukraine's capital, outside a residential building that took a direct hit. Trey.
Yeah, guys, good morning. Overnight, Russia launched a massive drone attack against Ukraine, the largest since their invasion of Ukraine back in February of 2022. One of the buildings behind me was hit by those drones. 3 people at this location were killed, and rescue workers right now are digging through the debris looking for anyone else buried under the rubble. The president of the EU Commission said, quote, "Once again, the Kremlin is mocking diplomacy, trampling international law, and killing indiscriminately." Many EU leaders have spoken out today, understanding that there was a key escalation overnight by the Russians. Not only did Russia target major civilian buildings in the capital of Kiev, but they also targeted for the first time a government building, the Cabinet of Ministers building, and it was significantly damaged. Smoke was rising this morning from the Ukrainian skyline as rescue workers went into that building to try to determine what the extent of that damage was. But again, today, crews are in different areas across the Ukrainian capital, surveying the damage, looking for anyone else who is possibly buried under the rubble. And European leaders are calling out Russian leadership for this massive attack against their neighbor. Guys, back to you.
Hey, Trey, quick.
Okay, there you have it. Russia unleashes this large drone attack. You hear about the EU, they ain't happy about it. Why do I keep talking about this? Well, I'm going to have to keep reminding you because I've already told you I don't believe peace is going to happen. Even if it does, it's going to be short-lived. And the reason for that is because I told you there's the prophecy with Magog and Gog, and that's going to eventually have to happen. And one of the countries involved is going to be Russia. I believe most scholars believe it's going to be Russia, China, and then some people debate whether it's going to be Iran or Turkey in that area. But I'll bring on Chatty to kind of clarify this a little bit more. Hey, Chatty, so this is what's going on, okay? So I told people that when you look at the Magog and Gog war, that there's going to be Russia, China, and some scholars debate whether it's going to be the Turkish area, Turkey, or say Iran. Can you tell people the Bible verse in Ezekiel that explains this prophecy, and what countries do scholars believe are involved?
The Gog and Magog prophecy is found in Ezekiel 38 to 39. The main passage is Ezekiel 38, 1 to 6, where God tells Ezekiel, open quote, "Son of man, set your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Prophesy against him and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army. Persia, Cush, and Put will be with them, all with shields and helmets, also Gomer with all its troops, and Beth Togarmah from the far north with all its troops. There are many nations with you." Ezekiel 38, 2 to 6 NIV. Close quote. How scholars interpret the nations. Magog, often linked to people north of Israel, many scholars associate this with Russia. Meshech and Tubal, ancient peoples in Asia Minor, modern Turkey, though sometime Meshech to Moscow. Persia, this is clear, modern Iran. Cush, usually understood as Sudan or Ethiopia in Africa. Put, often identified with Libya or North Africa. Associated with areas of modern Turkey, the Caucasus, or Central Asia. So when you put it together, many interpreters see a coalition led by Russia from the north, with allies like Iran, Turkey, and some African nations. Exactly the type of geopolitical axis we're watching form today. Would you like me, when you cue me, to also explain how Revelation 20 references Gog and Magog again, but in a different end-time context?
What I want to know is when this war that's supposed to happen, it happens right before the tribulation. Is that what most scholars believe?
Good question, Anthony. Scholars don't all agree on the timing of the Gog and Magog war in Ezekiel 38 to 39, but here are the main views. 1. Before the tribulation, pre-trib view. Many conservative prophecy teachers hold that this war happens shortly before the 7-year tribulation begins. They argue that the sudden destruction of Israel's enemies could create the vacuum and chaos that allows the Antichrist to rise and confirm a peace covenant with Israel. Daniel 9:27. 2. Early in the tribulation. Some place the war in the opening phase of the tribulation, pointing out that Israel must be dwelling securely. Ezekiel 38 verse 11. They suggest this security comes from a peace deal brokered by the Antichrist, which then gets shattered when this invasion takes place. 3. At the end of the millennium, post-millennial view, a smaller group sees Ezekiel's Gog and Magog war as parallel to Revelation 20:7-9, which describes nations rising against God's people after the 1,000-year reign of Christ. This is less common among evangelical scholars, but still discussed. So, to answer your question, the most common teaching among evangelical prophecy scholars is that the Gog-Magog war occurs before or at the very start of the tribulation, setting the stage for the rise of the Antichrist.
So, as you see, Chatty breaking that down, what the scholars believe, and that's pretty much how I see it. Because if you look at how it's going down right now, like I said, this peace deal, it's not going to go through, and even if it does, very short lived. But what you see going on right now with Israel and the Palestinians, and like today they just bombed in Qatar. It's like people, and I said this in the last video. Israel's supposed to be a burdensome stone to the rest of the world. People are not too happy with Israel right now. You know, I mean, Europe is still trying to back them, but let me run. You know, before I run that clip, I'll just give you my piece. Look, with all this is going on, you can see that the stage is being, you know, kind of laid there. The stage is being set, right? The Antichrist is going to come. I've been saying that. You can watch any of these videos, and I've been doing shorts, and I constantly message just because I want the word out. Israel is ripening themselves for the Antichrist. So you can see all this coming together. So if you had to place, okay, when is this prophecy going to get fulfilled? It's probably going to happen right after the tribulation, or right in it. I mean, right in the beginning stages, because one of the things it says is that people will kind of like not back Israel anymore. They're going to be on their own, right? And then they're going to be able to battle these countries. And the way it's kind of stated, though, is that it's God's hand at work. So it makes you feel like there might be this confusion where the Israelis see that it's God, right? But at the same time, the Antichrist is going to come and take his place, and then they start to think that the Antichrist did it. That's what it sounds like when I read it. That it has that tone to it, because God clearly says He's going to help defend Israel, but yet Israel has to take in the Antichrist. So you wonder, because I've mentioned several times, we're living in the times of great deception because of the AI, deep fakes, and all those type of things that can happen right now. Look at the news, the media, and all these people are lying to you. Half the time you gotta wait for the information to come in and start to sort through it and figure things out. So, like I said, I can see Israel being manipulated into believing that it's the Antichrist, because they're still waiting for the Messiah. And so somebody's going to come and they're going to follow that person. So God may have his hand in this Magog prophecy, but they may get confused and actually believe the Antichrist did it because they think that he's the Messiah. I can see that playing out. I can't say 100%, but that's the way. Like I said, if anything, like I always tell you, ask your pastors, read your Bible. The research is so much easier to get now. You see how I use Chatty. He can pull out things because I've already told you. I know these things in the Bible, but at the same time, Chatty can make it really quick and find it for me, and it helps me out. It helps me do my research even faster and better. But I'm going to show you a clip that I saw the other day, and check this out real quick. Let me roll the tape on this one.
Israel says it's identifying more targets in northern and central Gaza as they plan to enter Gaza's largest city. This planned offensive comes just days after Israel was committing genocide. That's according to the International Association of Genocide Scholars. They say the Jewish nation's conduct meets the legal definition as laid out in the UN Convention, but also says Hamas committed international crimes when it attacked Israel on October 7, 2023. Holly Williams has the latest developments.
Did you guys see that? Did you see the anchor? How he quickly wanted to basically say ABC has no, we're not saying anything here. Like that's their thing. Like he wanted to distance himself and ABC from those comments that the scholars made that there's a genocide going on. Did you see that? And that's what I mean. There's a lot of this stuff going on. Like with that, what you saw right there with the body language, remember, I told you about my psychology past. Looking at his body language and all that, you can tell right there that is influence. That's the Jewish influence. That's the money. That's the people saying, hey, don't talk bad about us. Don't make us look bad. So you can tell they want to bring you the news. They want to tell you what they're seeing, but they know there's a lot of political pushback. There's a lot going on behind the scenes here. It makes you wonder, what are the power players doing here, right? But let's watch some more of this footage.
Multiple incursions into Gaza City during nearly 2 years of war, Israel says it is still a Hamas stronghold. But it's also a refuge for thousands of civilians facing both war and a desperate shortage of food. In that resolution that you mentioned, John, passed on Sunday by the International Association of Genocide Scholars, they pointed to the deaths of an estimated 59,000 people and asserted that Israel has used torture, arbitrary detention, and the deliberate deprivation of food against Palestinians in Gaza. The association said that met the legal definition of genocide under the Genocide Convention, which is an international treaty and very much a response to the Holocaust and the Second World War. It defines genocide as, quote, acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial or religious group. Now, Israel has repeatedly rejected accusations that it's committing genocide in Gaza. It says its goal is to destroy Hamas, which is designated a terrorist organization by the US. The war began.
You know, if that last part is true, if they were just after Hamas, but come on, man. You know, what was it? 3,000 hostages were kidnapped or killed on the 7th, 2 years ago on October 7th, was it? But you're killing 50,000 people. I mean, I don't know how long you can keep up the charade. Like, it's not genocide. We're just after Hamas. Like, if you had any good sense in you, it would only be a ground attack. But even before that, you could have paid to get these guys out of there. You guys heard my opinion before. I don't believe Palestinians need a state in Israel. That no, it's Israel's land. God said it's supposed to be their land. But the way Israel is going all about it is wrong. It's not godlike. It's not Christian-like. It's not anything like. There's a lot of evil shit going on. All right, that's how I feel. And I've mentioned before, I just don't want you guys to have hate because it's easy, right? You look at that footage, you look at those places being bombed, and you look at the kids and the hunger, and you'd have to be, have no soul if you don't care. But, I'm at the same time, I always tell you guys, like, I look at it all. I don't just look at one thing. Hamas, they're a terrorist group. They did plenty of bad things in the past. For decades, they've been pushing Israel. They've been bombing and fighting. And, people will make the argument, well, it's because of this, because they took the land. It was never their land to begin with. You have to look at the source. There were squatters on British land. If you want to look at it that way, it was the British that gave that land back to Israel. So no matter what, whoever was living there, it's like you're living on a piece of land that's not yours. It could easily be taken away from you. That's just the way I look at it. You have to look at it this way. You have to look at all the things. So you can try to say, well it's called Palestine. Well, they know the history. Rome did that. They did that to mock the Jews. They didn't want it. They wanted Israel to forget about it because, yes, they were sinning, and that's why it ended up this way. The Bible's true. You should see those prophecies being fulfilled, right? Because that's where we're at. I mean, they got dispersed just like Jesus said they were going to get dispersed. Now they're back, so you have to look at Amos and say, hey, this prophecy has been fulfilled. God said he doesn't break his promises. It's their land. So no, the Palestinians shouldn't be there. And no, they should never have got a piece of land. But that doesn't mean that you go and bomb and you kill all the women and you kill the children and kill 50,000 people like that. That's not godlike. This isn't the days of the Canaanites where God specifically told Moses, a prophet, what they had to do because they were savages. All things were savage back then, because that's like right now we're modern times. Most people ain't savages because we're in modern times. You don't need to be. But trust me, if there was a big war and there's no electricity and people were surviving, easily people would turn to their primal animal instincts again, and they would go and hurt each other and kill each other just to survive. But we don't live like that now because of the way things are. Israel, they don't have a prophet. Nobody said to go do these things. So it's not good what they're doing. But like I've said before, you don't have to have hate in your heart. I don't hate Israel. I hate evil and I hate evil acts, but I don't hate Israel. I don't want Israel to be the burdensome stone that God talks about in that prophecy, because I don't want to be those people, because God already said, like, those people ain't good either. If you have a hate in your heart for anybody, that is not a good thing. So you know what? It has nothing to do with that. What it comes down with me is they're not doing Christian-like things, and that I can be against. I don't need to back Israel. I can say I'm not going to back you guys. And just to clarify my point, check this out.
Take out any funding because I found out that one of my colleagues is trying to add more money in for Ukraine. I have 2 amendments that strip funding from Israel. This would be $500 million. Israel already receives $3.8 billion annually from the United States government. I'm a big believer in defunding all foreign aid and all foreign funding for all foreign countries. So I've introduced 2 amendments, one to get the $500 million out of the NDAA. The $3.8 billion goes in the state and foreign ops appropriations bill, so that's separately. And I had done amendments for that. And then I have another amendment that takes out another $105 million. This one is $55 million for Israel's counter-drone program and another $70 million for anti-tunnel cooperation. So it's just important. We're $37 trillion in debt. We shouldn't be funding foreign countries, basically because America's broke, and we really need to get focused on our own country and our own people's problems.
Okay, so I want to take it one by one. I want to get clarity on all this, and then we'll get into the content and substance of it.
Well, just to clarify for your listeners, the U.S. already provides nuclear-armed Israel with $3.8 billion annually in foreign aid. In 2024, in the security supplemental, we gave $8.7 billion to Israel. During the recent 12-day war with Iran in June, the U.S. used 15 to 20% of our terminal high altitude area defense missile stockpile defending Israel. That cost the United States somewhere over $800 million. Wow. The $500 million that I'm introducing an amendment to take out is authorized in the NDAA for this program that funds Israel's missile defense systems, Iron Dome, David Sling, and the Arrow system. But it's important to note that since 2006, we've spent over $15 billion supporting these Israeli missile defense systems. Here's what is something important to understand. While we're $37 trillion in debt, Israel is less than $400 billion in debt. And they're doing so well with their economy. They're able to provide state-funded health care for Israeli citizens. They're able to provide state-funded college. My argument is it's not anti-Semitic to say that America should keep our money and invest our own hard-earned tax dollars in our own interest, especially for a country like Israel that is nuclear armed and that is doing so well economically. They're able to provide state-funded healthcare and college. I don't think that's a country that needs our assistance, especially how they've shown the entire world that they're very capable of annihilating and wiping out their enemies. Here at home, I really want to see the United States Congress focus on the American people.
See right there? MTG, she's on fire, man. You know what? She said some crazy stuff in the past, and I didn't like her for a while early on. But like I told you, when new information becomes available or things change, it's okay to change too. It's okay to change opinions. That's what a wise person does. Nobody says stupid. If you have an idea that doesn't work anymore or whatever, you don't say stubborn on it and stick with it and be a retard. You know what I mean? Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's done really good lately. I'm actually like, man, I really like what she's doing. And just to, why I even showed you this was like how she said, it's not anti-Semitic not to back Israel. That's the whole point. That's why I showed you this. This is my view. She doesn't hate Israel. She doesn't. She just sees it like, this is not cool. We're giving all this money. They're doing well. We're not. It doesn't make any sense. Most Republicans, a lot of people ran on these type of things. Even Trump ran on this stuff. Like, we're not going to be giving money away like this anymore. But Trump has flipped. I said that a long time ago. He's flipped on all these things. You can say it's him. You can say they got to him. I really don't know. But the point is, that's just a fact. He's flipped. He's basically doing Israel's bidding. And like I said, you've heard me say it before. I don't believe Palestinians should have a place there. They should be gone. But the way Israel is doing is not a good thing. We shouldn't be funding them because look at all this money going out. We're broke. I believe we should focus more on our country. That also leads into the prophecy, though, because I'm also saying because of the atrocities that I see going on right now in Israel, I don't think we should back them. There's nothing wrong with this saying, hey, man, we don't like what's going on. We're just not going to back you on it. We don't hate you. We're not going to war with you. But if we have to, we'll sanction you. But that doesn't mean we hate you. It's just like, hey, man, World War II happened. And the Nazis and the Jews, you always bring it up. Every time, every chance you get, you want to bring up World War II and what the Nazis did. Every single time. But here you go, killing 50 3,000 people. If who knows if those numbers are even accurate? I don't think they are. It might be more. Maybe it's a little less. I don't know. But it's that compared to 3,000 people. And you know they're going to take the West Bank. I've already been mentioning that. I mentioned these things before anybody else. I'm telling you, they're going to go after the West Bank. And that's not because, like I said, it's because of what the Bible says. It's going to happen. My point is we don't need to give funding for these type of things, man. We really don't. They don't need our help. But as you see, they're controlling us. And they're even controlling Trump. Like I said, most of my buddies on social media are MAGA. And I know they hate to hear this, but this is just reality. Soak it in, man. You know what I mean? You don't have to always agree with me on anything or a lot of things, but just realize what's true. Trump's being played when it comes to foreign policy. A lot of things are working that he's doing here in America, but not everything, but a lot of things. You know, the tariffs, I was totally with the tariffs. You saw the eggs went down. You see, we're not even talking liberals here because we all can agree the libs are batshit crazy. I think we can all agree with that. But what I'm saying is Trump has some really good ideas, but when he does bad things, we need to call it out. Like the whole Washington thing, right? Putting the National Guard there. Did it help? Sure thing. I think in a sense, part of me says, yeah, it's a great move. But yet you got to think ahead. That's opening the door for the libs to do that to us. And a lot of us are Christians and a lot of us believe in the end times. So if you start to think when you read your book and you're like, oh, they're going to round up Christians someday, for try to give them the mark of the beast. Well, how do you think it's going to happen? Seriously, man, put it together. It's going to be, because that's what they do. It's going to be policies. Even if your side is using those policies and you like them when they're using them, they're going to be used against you too. You just have to have an open mind to that. And that's why whenever these guys do stuff like this, you have to really ask yourself, like, really, is it a good idea? Because I don't want it to be used on us. But granted, I will say that the libs may have found a way to do it anyways. So it's not to say that Trump started it, anyways, because they probably would have done the same. But hey, it does open the door to these kind of things. So let's move on to our next topic. I'm going to roll the tape.
Basti leggere, ci dipende, vi dipende, io sono la porta.
In realtà questa giornata è semplicemente rendere visibile un cammino che è già presente nelle nostre chiese in Italia ma anche all'estero. Qui ci sono cammini pastorali di tutto il mondo occidentale, insomma, ecco, cioè, molti dei preti che troverete oggi delle suore accompagnano già persone LGBT, coppie gay, nella realtà parrocchiale o nelle varie comunità religiose. Quello che ci aspettiamo noi è semplicemente di vivere nell'ordinarietà, nella Chiesa, e di portare le loro storie, le loro vite, semplicemente finalmente visibili, che già ci sono nella Chiesa, ma per ora non venivano fuori.
Del Figlio e dello Spirito Santo.
Okay, so you saw there, the Catholic Church is trying to be very inviting to that specific community. I'm not even going to say them by name. If you see the video, let's just say I'll call them the Alphabet Mafia, like a lot of people do. But look what's going on, man, with the Catholic Church. And this is what I mean. You guys, I hope you guys are putting it all together. I hope you're just putting it all together. I've tried to defend the Catholic Church for a long time, and you guys all know that I'm a non-denominational Christian. The reason why I defended them is because we needed somebody to just have Christ at the front. They're a big church, right? They're a big following. They have the most, I believe, followers is the Catholic Church. So we needed somebody just to keep it out there because, the Muslims are growing because they're growing in population. They're growing quickly. So we just needed someone to carry the torch of Christianity. But here's the thing. It's becoming pretty clear that and I've believed this for years that Satan has infiltrated the church because we know this is not right. The Bible specifically says it's not right. But here's the biggest problem. Here's the biggest problem that I see with this, because I believe every individual, we're all sinners. Every individual sinner has the right to go to a church and try to get better and be good with God. But what you're seeing right here is that there is no plan to do that. You just saw it. They're helping couples. They're bringing in couples. Like, no, you can. If I'm a drug addict, I'm not gonna go sit at a pew with my Coke in hand, right? right? I'm not going to bring in my lines of Coke and snort them in there. That's not the point of church. The point of church is to stop you from doing these things. But yet they're not stopping them. They're not saying, hey, if you're going to come to church, you got to come as individuals. You can't be holding hands and sitting together. And you can't be wearing clothes like that because all you're doing is promoting. And this is what I told you. This is about putting little cracks in the foundation, then they turn to canyons. Satanism has entered the Catholic Church and is starting to divide it. They're going to destroy it. You know what I mean? A lot of people want to say that the Catholic Church is the false religion. Maybe they're right. I have my other thought. My views are not. My view is that it's science. That to me is the false religion. But I guess if you're looking biblically, I mean, it's a good argument that I don't understand this. Like you talk about Jesus. Maybe that's what Jesus was talking about when he said, money will come in my name. You know what I mean? But they're going to mislead you because that right there is not right. You can't do that. You just can't. You're defiling the church. You're defiling what God has told you. The individual is fine that's trying to escape their sin. But if you see here, that's not what's going on. They're holding hands in church, man. They're saying that that's fine. So what's next? Think about this. What could this lead to, right? Let's use our wisdom here. What is this going to lead to? It's going to lead to the confusion of the young. And like I said, when Jesus said, let the kids come to me, that was his way of, teach your children about me. The Catholic Church, by doing this, they're going to start a lot of confusion amongst young people. If this were to go on, if the world were to last another 100 years, because of what's going on here, it's going to be normal. Churches will no longer look at the Bible and say, well, this is a sin. They'll just totally forget about it. They'll omit it. They'll act like it doesn't exist. It's like you cannot go away from God's word. Remember in the last video when I told you about drinking and stuff like that? Like, I can't tell you that it's right because you can't. That's the point about sin. How do you get rid of sin? How do you get away from your sin? You have to admit that you have sin. Even psychology book says you can't fix a problem. Like if you have if you're an alcoholic or a drug addict, the first step is to acknowledge that you're an alcoholic or a drug addict. You have to acknowledge that you have, you're sinning to be able to fix a sin. So if I tell you drinking is not a sin, I'm just going to continue on drinking and committing sin by being a drunkard all the time. Can't do that. You got to admit that it's a sin. That's how you keep it in balance. That's how you keep it in check. Right here, that's not what's going on in the Catholic Church. To me, I'm surprised it's not bigger news. It's disastrous for them, and I can no longer back them. I can't back them. I mean, that to me is it right there. Like, remember I did the prophecy of the popes and that we're probably on the last pope because he's an American. If you haven't seen the video, go check it out. Matter of fact, go check out all those videos, right? Go check out the 13 traits of the end times, the flood. I'm surprised I didn't get more people watching the flood. I gave some great historical context on the flood and what really happened there, because you got a lot of people that like to debate the flood and who came up with it first and forgeries and whatnot. But go back, check out those videos. I don't have a lot of videos. Things are easy to find. You can find the Antichrist one. The point is, and go to the informator.net. Right, I got some articles. Like, if you really want to know the steps of what's happening, where we're at right now when it comes to end times, it's great. I have great articles on this stuff. Talk about the money, like the CBDC, and how they're going to just basically everyone's going to have digital money. That's how they're going to control you on what you do, along with many other aspects. Check it out. That's the informator.net. That's what it's called. It's the name of my web channel here on YouTube. And don't forget to follow, don't forget to share, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things you need to do to spread the word. But anyways, going back to this, yeah, the Catholic, it's just disappointing. It's just really disappointing. When I saw this, I was like, man, I don't think they're gonna turn back from this. I think from here they're gonna steadily go downhill. Like I said, everything is decaying in the world. The United States, you can see it everywhere. Things, like I said, some things are getting better, but we're never going to get back to that golden age that Trump is talking about, because first of all, Trump's only got a few years, and most people know that he ain't going to be there long. So once he's gone, who in the hell knows what's going to happen? It's already being shown. Israel seems to be the tail that wags the dog. So, anyways, let's move on to the next story.
They put out here. Let's watch.
We won World War I and we won World War II. Not with the Department of Defense, but with a War Department.
We're focusing our military on its core mission, crushing America's adversaries.
We're in the business of war fighting.
Well, at least we're honest now. The Department of War, yeah. Why was it ever changed to the Department of Defense in the first place? It really shouldn't have been, in all honesty.
As you can see, Kim makes a good point there. Though, in this video, she did disappoint me when she backed those two numbnuts on Twitter, I don't know, those Caspian twins or whatever the hell they're called, those two morons. I mean, she disappointed me a little bit on there, but hey, man, everybody makes mistakes. So I'm sure she'll hear about it and change her opinion on that. But the real issue here is the Department of War. Why did I show you this? You know, because we're coming to the end of this video. It's just where we're at. This is what it's all about. Did you not hear recently that China had their little parade and they had all the robot dogs with weapons on them and showing off their technology? You know, you have Russia doing what they're doing, showing off their technology and war machines. And Trump flew those bombers over Putin at the meeting in Alaska. This is all like I said, this is that playground shit. Everybody's showing their shit. Like, they're getting ready for war, man. You know what I mean? It may not happen tomorrow or the next day, but they're getting ready for it, which is going to lead me to the finale of this video. Guys, this is what it was. I told you earlier when I was coming home from my vacation, some things weren't sitting well with me. And what led me to the whole thing about survivalism and why I do these videos is because, let me break it down to you. Do you guys remember not too long ago, this has happened within this 10-year radius, okay? We had Russia jets that were flying around Alaska. It was a handful of times, if not more, where our pilots had to basically get the Russians out of our airspace, right? And then you had the China thing, right? The China balloons, and they were kind of moving around. What I'm getting at is that if you don't know this, the Pentagon, and I'm sure China does this too, and I'm sure Russia does it too, but we have this simulation war games type, computer system. And what it does, and I don't know the name of it, so if you want to look it up, you can look it up. What it does is simulates war and lets us know what's the percentage, would we win if we got into a war with China or Russia. And roughly 10 to 15 years ago, it said we would lose to China. And I think one of the reasons why Russia is, this whole thing with Russia, why we so badly wanted Ukraine and Russia to go at it, a lot of it has to do with the weakening of Russia, because sanctioning them using their military arsenal and all that, it weakens them. It costs money, man. War costs a lot of money. It makes money, but it costs a lot of money. And it comes down to weakening them, because we know that we might go to war eventually. So we want to weak Russia. And China knows this stuff too. This is why they keep talking about Taiwan. That's been in the news for years now, right? They want to attack Taiwan. I think they run their little simulations too. And I think they know they have a limited window. And in this window, if they don't do something with the tariffs and all that's going on with the sanctions with Russia, this is why you have the convergence of, say, India, China, them all trying to make a deal, their own money and all that stuff like that, right? It's because the writing's on the wall. Because they have a lot of tactics that they're trying to use on America to destroy us from within, because all this is war. We're in a war right now, but it's not the kind of war that you guys are used to. It's not like World War II or Vietnam. It's none of that stuff. War now is fought on several fronts. And if you're just not attuned to it, you don't know. You have cybersecurity. That's why you got all these hacking that goes on. Even North Korea gets involved in this kind of shit. So you have that. You have this whole cyber type stuff, hacking. That's war. We know who's going at us and what we're doing. Right now, that's going on. They're trying to hack us. We're trying to hack them. It's the same old shit. And it goes. Then you have your war shit up in space. These satellites. Now, I'm going to tell you, do I know 100%? No. But like I say, logically speaking, I mean, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist or a genius to figure this out. The satellites we have out there, they're all equipped with weaponry. That's Russia, China, all of us. Sometimes you hear about these satellites going down and it makes you wonder, did we shoot it down? Did they shoot it down? I believe all the satellites are equipped with weaponry, because that's the way you got to be. It's just the way it is. If you have a gun, I got to have a gun. If you got a knife, I got to have a knife. If you have a bazooka, then I better get me some type of gun that's similar to that. It's just the way it is. So it's just this constant buildup. So I think in their war games, Russia and China knows they got a limited window. especially with these tariffs and the way the economy is going. And they know that if things don't start to change by, say, who knows when, whatever the X is on their system, that they'll lose a war with us. And the reason why my stomach wasn't feeling well is because I have this feeling, like I said, just a feeling, because there's nothing there. I have no information to give you other than what I was telling you about connecting the dots with the jets and the spy planes and the Russian, military chiefs and them saying stuff like, "Oh, we'll just gotta drop a nuke on, Yosemite National Park or whatever it was, where the volcano they think that super volcano is, and that'll destroy this." They talk like that, right? Everyone does that kind of stuff. So my feeling is Russia and China are running out of time. And I think I'm worried that one day I'm going to wake up, right? All of us are going to wake up and they're going to say that they bombed. You're going to wake up to no electricity and no water because a war started. And the very first thing Russia and China did was bomb our infrastructure to weaken us inside. Because like I said, the cyber war, media war, all these things are getting us to be angry from within. And this is why our government has been trying to take guns away, in a sense, because if you're going to do martial law, it's really hard to do when everybody has guns. So I think China and Russia have been trying to destabilize us from within, make us angry at each other. And plus, our own government's the fucking idiots. So excuse my language, but that's where we're at right now. So to me, that's my fear. I'm going to wake up one day and we're not going to have water, we're not going to have electricity, and it's going to be total anarchy, right? And that's my fear and sadness. And when I say fear, it's not that I'm scared, because I ain't scared of no one but God. But anyone that has kids, you understand what I'm talking about. You have a wife, you understand what I'm talking about. If everyone becomes primal, then what are you going to have to do? You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. So that's the sadness. That's the worrisome part. I think Russia and China know that the writing's on the wall and they only got so much time. And you see the U.S. Department of War changing the name. Kim Iverson got a good point there. It's because they know, man. This is our way of telling them, hey, man, we're back. We're going to kick some ass. So what's going to happen? It's whoever's going to make that first move. So nothing's changed in my opinion. Iran is going to fall. You just saw, if you haven't heard, Israel just shot missiles into another country, Qatar, who doesn't fight with them. Like that, there's going to be some fallout. And what's the first thing they say? Whoa, we're precision attacks. We weren't trying to hurt anybody. It's like, dude, if it wasn't for us, I don't know what would happen right now with Israel. I think they're more than capable, like Marjorie Taylor Greene said, they're more than capable of taking care of themselves. We don't need to be funding them or anything. But anyways, man, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Do all the things you need to do, help the channel grow, the algorithm, YouTube's algorithm. That's what they want to see. So I know a lot of you guys watch the videos, but you don't share it or do anything. If you can, do me that favor, subscribe and all that good stuff. So I hope you pray for me. I pray for you, man. God bless.
Welcome to the Informator.net.